Ladies, money is about to have a massive identity crisis. $124 trillion is set to exchange hands in the next decade. And 70 to 80% of this money is going into the hands of women. This is the divine feminine wealth era we have been preparing for. This is what we have been talking about. Now, the thing is that researchers are kind of freaking out about this, as they should, for many reasons. First of all, they believe that we are not prepared, that women are not prepared to be able to handle this kind of wealth transfer. Now, for those of you guys that are thinking, but Mina, I'm not really gonna inherit any money. Listen, this affects all of us, because money, which has been primarily up until this point in the hands of men, is now going to be in the hands of women. And as someone that has been in the business world for a couple of decades, let me tell you something. Women buy differently. They spend their money differently than men. This means that the causes, the businesses, the brands out there will now need to adapt and change. And whether you're actually inheriting any money or not, you can start setting yourself up, your company, your brand, to get a piece of this pie. So I'm going to talk about a couple things where I do think this is going to be a problem if we don't step up. So interestingly enough, I feel like God has been preparing me for this moment pretty much all my life. As a lot of you guys know who have read my book, have been following my work, I grew up in the United States with immigrant parents, and I had a lot of inconsistencies in my childhood when it came to money. My parents were both hardworking individuals, but they were overly generous with their money and their time and their attention. And because of that, we didn't really have a very stable childhood. There were times when we were homeless, there were times where we were on food stamps, and then there were times when we had a lot of money. So it was just a lot of inconsistency. As I grew up, I realized that I could only depend on myself when it came to money. And I went into what I call the self-aware Barbie. When you take on more of a masculine energy and masculine persona when it comes to money. Now, I was someone in my 20s that could manifest money rather easily. And when I say easily, I worked really, really hard. I had a real estate business. I worked really hard, have a very strong work ethic, but it didn't really feel like work to me. Like, it was easier for me to make money than a lot of other people because of my beliefs. However, I could never keep money. So even though I, at one point in my 20s, owned over 20 real estate properties, had a mortgage license, had a real estate license, was doing great, I never really had much to show for it. Then I went into this other transition with getting married, my husband retiring me, and being a stay-at-home mom, and being totally dependent on a man for all of my finances. That took another level of skills that I had to learn. And then after we became financially independent, I started this business, my coaching business. And I then transitioned into out-earning my husband and making over 8 figures in my business and my global brand, which required a whole different set of skill sets. And then I had to study deeply wealth transfer, because my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren will also inherit wealth. And so I started learning and educating myself on how to do this in a way that actually serves my descendants and doesn't harm them in any way. And so as this big wealth transfer is happening, I've already been starting to think about how this is going to impact my clients, how this is going to impact women globally, and what I can do to set myself up to be able to support these women. So let's talk about I have my notes here, some of the issues that I think are going to happen as this money starts exchanging hands and money literally starts becoming more feminine. Now, before we get into some of the challenges that this wealth transfer will present us, let's just first celebrate the fact that this is going to be such a huge opportunity for women. This is going to be huge, okay, for all of us. And I just want to take a moment to just celebrate ourselves and celebrate where society is going. And yes, this is going to present a lot of challenges, but I know that if we start preparing now, we are going to all come out ahead. So the number one challenge that this is going to present ourselves is what I like to call container issues in my work. And what container issue means is it's an upper limit problem. Our nervous system, our subconscious programming always has a set point. There's always a ceiling and a floor. The ceiling is often the identity and the floor is often the self-concept. So because women are new to money, it's only been 50 years since we're allowed to even have our own credit card, like in our name. Before 50 years ago, you needed a male cosigner to be able to have a credit card. So obviously, we're new to money. Women are the ultimate new money. And even though we're new to money, we're catching up really fast. I was looking at some stats recently, and in the United States, 45% of all households are now dual income households. And the other more interesting stat is 40% of these households, the wife earns more than the man. So even though we're new to money, we're doing amazing, we're catching up fast. And so what we want to make sure is that we are psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, and physically preparing ourselves for this container issue and this identity crisis that we're all going to have. I know for myself and for my husband, we've had to work through things psychologically, spiritually. We've had a lot of conversations around these changes that are happening because we've had to deal with these changes, right? And we want to make sure that we are able to teach our children. We've got 2 sons and a daughter, and they know how to manage wealth. They know how to be good stewards of this wealth. So the first challenge will be that container issue, okay? The second challenge, which is going to happen, is predators, okay? My husband and I we've been watching on Netflix. I don't know if you guys are watching the documentary. It's called Love, Con, Revenge. It's kind of a spin-off on Tinder Swindler and the other series, Dirty John. We all know that there are a group of men that target wealthy women and even just middle-class women, and they love bomb them and they basically leave them spiritually and financially in shambles. This is not new news, right? Like, we know this. As this great wealth transfer happens, and if these women are not prepared properly with this information, as you can imagine, a lot of predators will show up looking to get their unearned share of the pie. So that's a second issue that I think is going to be huge. The third issue we're going to have is obviously the identity crisis. I think that our men, they thrive in being providers. This is something I've been teaching about for over a decade now, right? Like the evolutionary basics. And now as women become more wealthy, not just from inheriting this money, but also from our businesses booming, like I said, women spend differently than men. And more money in the hands of women means more money in circulation. Not just like tied away, but in circulation, which means that all women will be getting richer. What does that mean for our marriages? What does that mean for our men? And so we want to make sure that we're approaching this in a healthy way that actually serves humanity and our marriages and our families. So that's the third thing. What we can start doing to prepare for this is elevating the conversation. We need to start having conversations about money that involve more feminine aspects as well as masculine aspects, because I believe that having wealth, not just money, not just cash flow, but actual wealth, requires both feminine aspects, the manifestation, how we feel about money, the psychology, the spirituality of money, and also the masculine aspects. And that means like actual financial literacy. We're going to have to be really, really great with both of them. No more burying our head in the sand. We need to elevate the conversation. Now, if you are a female-owned company, a brand, this presents you with so many opportunities. You can actually be someone that supports and empowers women and families around money and wealth. This means that your brand needs to start positioning for this today. If you're going to be there helping and supporting women and this wealth transfer, I say really start planning for it today. This means getting really clear on your personal values. Our personal values are our brand. We need to really get crystalline clear on our voice, not just how our voice sounds, but the impact of our voice on the planet and on our clients. Another thing you need to do is start clarifying and identifying marketable skill sets that you have as a woman. I recently did a video on 5 unfair advantages that women have in business. I'll go ahead and link that in the description box. I highly recommend that you watch this and start skill stacking. No more burning skills down, no more burning everything down, starting over again. This is really the time to hone in on our marketable skill sets, knowing our unfair advantages when it comes to money, so that we can really collectively support women in creating a completely new earth and new identity around money. What's been really both interesting and really disturbing for me is that as my husband and I have become wealthy and we spend more time not only in wealthy circles, but also I invest a lot in masterminds and group coaching and mentorships and things like that. And what's been really interesting is just the contrast, like the conversations that I see people, men and women, that are really creating next level wealth for themselves. These aren't people that inherited the wealth. These are people that created the wealth. The conversations that they have are so vastly different than other people that I see. A lot of women right now, and maybe this is just the world that I'm in, they're sitting around just worrying about their own problems, constantly looping in inner work, burning everything down 24/7, just getting sidetracked and worrying about the wrong things, while everyone that is preparing themselves for this great wealth transfer is just getting wealthier. So they keep talking about, oh, the rich keep getting richer, but yeah, they think differently, right? They move differently. They're not just solving their own problems all the time and creating their own problems. They're solving other people's problems. And so, before I became wealthy, I used to have those same kind of beliefs, right? Oh, the rich are just getting richer and all that crap. But it's because they move differently. They study differently. They have different skill sets. Like when you actually get in it and you learn what the big differences are, it becomes clear as day, like, oh, right, that's why. And so right now, really start putting down your own problems for a while and say, what marketable skills do I have that I can market to the richest segment of my audience. Now, when you hear this, I know what you're thinking, because this comes up a lot in my group coaching containers and private coaching. A lot of women are like, well, I just want to give back and I want to be accessible. The thing is, when you're accessible, you become poor, right? When you're not accessible, you can actually help more people. So for example, I market my skill sets to wealthy people. My group coaching containers, my work it's to the wealthiest people of my audience, which actually allows me to pay millions of dollars a year in taxes, which helps so many people. And it also subsidizes my free content on YouTube. So when I'm actually marketing my marketable skills to the wealthiest segment of my audience, I can then, from the overflow, give more. Versus people that are like, oh, I just want to give, I just want to be accessible, I just want to give for free. Well, you're going to run out of money, because massive charity, massive change on the planet, not like a little bit, I mean massive change, it requires funding. Let's just get real. Charity requires money. And so when you have marketable skills and you market them to the richest segment of your audience, of your whatever your marketable, your audience or your people are, then from that overflow, you can give back, right? So my free content is created for everyone, right? Everyone can binge watch that. So when we have people, sometimes we get people emailing and saying, I believe education should be important, so I should get all your content for all your courses for free, and I should have free access to your coaching. And we say, no, absolutely not. Here's the YouTube channel. So if you want free, here's free. The whole YouTube library is accessible. It's free. However, my courses, my books, my coaching, that's going to be for the people that can afford that. So when you have that mindset, you can actually help more people. Versus if you're trying to just be accessible to everyone, you're never going to get rich. Because that's not the path to riches and wealth. And you're never going to get your little sliver of that $124 trillion. You just need a little bit of that, okay? So let's start really thinking about this wealth transfer. Women just circulate money so differently, right? Women, like as a woman, I love like supporting other female owned businesses. Like I love it. Like the housekeeping business, right? Like my housekeeper owns a housekeeping business. The chefs that we have, three of the four chefs that cook for my household are female owned businesses. Like that makes me feel so good. So when you can actually market to the most elite segment of your audience, you will then have money to support and help the other people and everyone else. If you are ready to go all in, I am starting my last group coaching container for 2025 called Feminine Energy Master Coaching. This container will help you clarify your mission, your personal values, your branding, your voice, your alignment around what you want to do as your purpose and passion in your next phase. What do you want to provide as a marketable service to this great wealth transfer? Do you want to help women in relationships? Do you want to help women in wealth, in branding, in marketing, in sales, in medicine, in families, in confidence, in weight loss? What is going to be your medicine and magic in this wealth transfer? Feminine Energy Master Coaching starts on September 18th, and you can apply your investment towards Kainat in the 12 weeks that we are going to be live. So just to wrap this up, I'm super excited about this wealth transfer. And yes, it is going to present all of us with new opportunities as well as new challenges. But I think that this is really going to evolve humanity and the conversation around money in ways that we cannot even begin to predict right now. And I'm really excited about it. So let me know your thoughts on this wealth transfer that's coming up. And I'll see you tomorrow in episode number 6.